Good afternoon, Section 14. Hope you're well wherever you are. It is January 31st, Tuesday, and we bid farewell to January, and tomorrow we say hello to February, which is kind of a similar month to January, cold-wise, except we're picking up a lot of light, a couple minutes a day. The sun is setting later and later and later, and I'm so happy to be here. And, you know, my truck is in the shop with alternator issues, so I wasn't able to drive up to Staples today, but I just taught a live Zoom class for them. Not as satisfying, but it's all fresh in my mind, and that class is linked with you. So their first lesson today is your first lesson. I got three things. I got a poem by an emerging friend of mine named Bruce Bond, and it'll go fast. It's only an 8-line poem, so if you blink, you will miss it. I'd also like today to talk about rhetorical invention. I've given you so far a definition of rhetoric, which is, to review, rhetoric is the art of discovering, in any case, the available means of persuasion. I've also taught you about the idea that rhetoric originally in the olden days, and to this minute, has three places, modalities in public where it happens. We are rhetorical when we function as politicians, lawyers, and ceremoniously, anytime one of us has to stand up and speak in public. And it's time now to start delving into something that I never get tired of talking about. In fact, I'm completely excited to talk about the 5 houses of rhetoric. Never wears me out. They occur originally in Plato's Phaedrus in a single paragraph. And we're only going to do one today. They are, just to list them, the 5 houses of rhetoric are invention, arrangement, memory, invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. Sorry. Invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. I've been talking about it long enough, I can't believe I forgot one. We're going to concentrate on invention today. And it's not complicated, and it's a very important thing to think about. Also, today, I want to address something that's really important to me. We've mumbled about it a little bit, but I want to make further efforts to strive a little bit further to put before you the importance of wonder in a classroom. I have just a few basic things that I need students to bring into any class, even a class like this. And, you know, courtesy and respect are pretty obvious, but I'm also a big fan of love and wonder and patience. And I'm going to invite you to do a little more thinking about that this week in a couple of ways. And I'm super excited because the first poet I'm hosting this year, Maya C. Popa, has a tremendous scholarly and human interest in wonder, particularly insofar as it relates to poetry. And I hope this sounds like a day to you. I was just telling my Staples crew, I know Facebook is dead to you. Maybe I've already said that, and that's fine. It's good that all the young people have left Facebook, because they left it to old people like me. And I'm on it because it's a place to promote poetry. And I also love watching my students grow up and move into their lives. Particularly, I love looking at photographs of their children, because I love children. You're going to hear me say that more than once. And you'd be surprised how many Tier 1 and Tier 2 poets are on, wait a minute, all poets are Tier 1. You'd be surprised how many great poets are on my Facebook, and I'm getting to be friends with them. One of them is a guy named Bruce Bond. I don't like the cover of this poetry book. It's kind of science fiction-y, and my science fiction phase is long gone. But Bruce Bond is a professor at the University of North Texas. He's a fantastic gigging musician, too. He's a guitar player. You could look it up, Bruce Bond on guitar. That guy can play. And I'm talking about him, obviously, because he's a poet. I'm going to read you one poem from his wondrous strange book called Patmos. Now, you may not know it, but Patmos is the island where the Apostle John wrote the last book in the Bible. He wrote the book of Revelation or the Apocalypse on that island near the very end of his life while a maniac emperor was destroying Rome. Nero was that guy's name. And I've not been secretive about the idea that you can't swing a cat in my head in the last 3 years without hitting an apocalyptic thought. It's just the way it's wired, and I think it's what's going on. But the clouds have parted, and I'm teaching and hosting poets and going to the Guthrie and the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, and we'll just see what happens next. So and there's no title. Ordinarily, you got to say the poet's name and the title, but none of these poems have a title. Just one, from Bruce Bond. It's from part 4 of this book. John of Patmos lived on an island, and who in the age of broken trust does not? Moonlight beats the shattered beach, and it must have been lonely waiting for God, for the curve of the horizon to send a horse. If beneath the sun a mirage across the water gave birth to lions, any wonder the sea rose, the island dwindled, longing for news like a soul for a body, one body for a mate. Any wonder he saw the shoreline eaten by waves. Those are really beautiful poems. Some of them are about his mother and his wife. I think he lost both of them, but I need to get to know that guy a little bit better. Well, let's dig into some content here. And since it's an online class, I can't really ask you the question, but you can imagine it. When I teach Rhetorical Invention, which is the first house of rhetoric, sorry for the crap sign. Wait, I don't need to do that. This is a video. I can put it on there with my magic little letter thing trick. I don't need any of this stuff. Excuse me, I'm professional again. When we're talking about invention, we are talking about the process that you go through with your creativity and your imagination and your human heart to come up with the topics that you're going to write or speak about with whatever ethos you have. Now, one of the ways, available ways into this is to stand in a classroom. It's a teacher trick, right? You stand in the room and you say something kind of edgy, kind of provocative, to rile students up and get them thinking. Now, I don't want to start a fight, of course, but sometimes you got to, necessity dictates. So one of the things that I've done in the years in the presence of teaching invention, to put the idea, and to make it real, I'll stand in my classroom and say, okay, what if I said this? What if I said that the chances of you coming up with something to write about that has never been written about before, your chances of doing that are 0. And it usually gets a few students riled up because it's basically a straightforward accusation of, you know what, none of you are original. None of you can think up something that's never been thunk of before. And there's some push and shove back and forth gently. And then I put before them the idea that that doesn't bother me at all. I'm not at all upset over the fact that just about every idea in my head is from somewhere else. Now, I have some Jeff Johnson ideas. I might reveal them if you're good. But most of what's going on up here, what's left of my mind, is from somewhere else. And that's why I'm always about attribution. I read this book. I got this idea here. It's really tempting as a teacher to come across something cool and then pretend it's yours. And I've got personal problems as a teacher, but that isn't one of them. So what I explain, I explain this to my students. The Greeks, who I owe such debts to, they believed that in heaven there was this storehouse, right? Actually, in heaven are all the things that are on the earth, but perfect versions of them, because it's heaven, right? They believed, and let me use the carpenters. If I squint a little bit, I can look through the trees, and it's about 7 miles away. Father Lou and some stout-hearted dudes are finishing off my podium, my brand new podium for Verse Like Water, solid black walnut. I'm super excited about it. As beautiful as that podium is, there's a perfect podium which is in heaven. And any carpenters down here, any woodworkers that try to make a podium, they're going to make the most beautiful, most perfect podium they can, but it's going to be a replica. It's going to be a facsimile of what's in heaven. Same thing goes with topics. The perfect topics are in heaven. And I may as well read this to you too, because I read it to my Staples kids. If you pick up the Odyssey, the first line goes this way. Sing to me of the man, Muse, the man of twists and turns, driven time and again off course, once he had plundered the hallowed heights of Troy. So what you just saw there in that line, that first line of Homer from 28 centuries ago, was a poet who invoked the muse. In those days, you didn't dare start up a poem or a speech without looking towards heaven, because you needed the help of heaven to speak. And what the Greeks really believed is that when it came time to speak about something or write about something, generally speaking, because there wasn't a lot of paper lying around, the orators took it more seriously, what would happen is your soul would fly to heaven and grab a topic, so to speak, and I kind of just think, big pole barn full of topics. Your soul would grab that topic with the help of the muse, bring it to earth. You would speak about it for a little while or write about it, and then that topic would fly hither, back to heaven. Now, when I learned about this in graduate school in the 80s, and there's that old stupid joke of mine that nobody ever smiles over. I'm so stupid I had to go to graduate school twice. In the 80s, when I came across this, I thought, well, what a quaint idea. What a quaint idea that we would write to what are called commonplace topics. I thought, I also kind of thought it was a bunch of crap. And then I started teaching freshman composition in the mid-80s at St. Cloud State University. I went into the room one day, Eastman Hall, looking over the river. I love that room. And they've really fixed up Eastman. If you've not been yet, you should check it out. I walked in and I said, okay, I want a persuasive paper. I want a 700-word persuasive paper, make a claim, back it up, and keep the ethos, pathos, logos stuff balanced. And I took the papers home from a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds, and I started grinding through the papers, and I encountered topics you've probably heard of. Drinking age, smoking age, gambling age, euthanasia, capital punishment, abortion, which I'd kind of rather not read about, please. Weed. There's always a weed paper. And I read them and went, okay, freshman composition. Look fine to me. And I gift wrapped up a bunch of B's. And in those days, it was fast, 10-week quarters, right? And 10 weeks later, I got another Comp 1 class because I was a teaching assistant. You only get one class. It pays for your tuition. I said the same thing early in the course. English 162. Make a claim, back it up, try to convince me of something. Keep the rhetorical appeals balanced, ethos, pathos, logos wise, have fun. Took the papers home. You guys, it was about the same pile, right? Drinking age, smoking age, gambling age, driving age, euthanasia, capital punishment, weed, okay? And then I realized something was going on. And because I was so young and inexperienced, I made a mistake. I thought I was helping these students, but I went in the classroom, the next quarter, I said, all right, I want a persuasive paper, I want it 700 words long, make a claim, back it up, etc. However, these are the topics about which I forbid you to write. And they just sat there blinking. And the mistake was that I took away their commonplace topics. That was dumb. It doesn't matter. Young people write to the same things century after century, and a lot of it has to do with freedom. So I keep reaching for that sheet of paper when I realize I don't need it. I'm not teaching a live Zoom class. I'm on film with my quality 4K camera. The word invention comes from an original Greek word that meant inventio, and in the process of invention, you go for something called a topic. The Greek word for topic is very nearly our word, and that word is topoi, T-O-P-O-I. And topoi means place or locale or location. And from that, we get the idea of commonplace topics. And this is what Aristotle talks about. In book 1 of the Rhetoric, maybe book 2 at the very latest, Aristotle says that human beings write about the same things all the time, and it's okay. There's no sense worrying about it. He does allow for special topics, but usually when a student tries to write about something that's never been thunk of before, they end up with something trivial or possibly weird. It's absolutely crucial to be able to control this, particularly in terms of topical specificity. We will cover that on another day. When you're writing a persuasive paper, 700-800 words, you've only got so much room. You can't take on one of the world's big problems. But I watch students do it all the time. And the takeaway is that we have commonplace topics, we have special topics, though they're rare. And probably the big takeaway is you should never worry about boring me, ever, because I'm never bored. You should also not worry and never think this thought. Don't think this thought. Well, surely he's read about this before. I've taught English for 36 years. If I didn't love it, I'd do something else. I probably have seen it. It's like I didn't have this for the Staples kids. A quote from Bob Dylan: "Say anything you want. I've heard it all before." It doesn't bother me. I could have you all write on the same topic, and linguistic dexterity would make sure that they're all completely different. So that's invention, and we've covered that. Now I want to switch gears here and I want to talk about something that's very, very important to me, which is the idea of love and patience and wonder. But today I want to dial in on wonder. It's a big deal. We know we have to love each other. It's written in some book or another. Love your neighbor as yourself. We have to love each other. And when I started this course, even though it's virtual and totally asynchronous, and I don't have a lot of contact with you, I vowed to start loving you and looking after you as best I could. And you're going to love each other, and you don't have to love me, but it would still be fun. You know this, I'm joking. Anything that's worth doing in the world is not worth doing unless it's framed and informed by love. I'm not going to lift a finger to do anything in the world if I can't do it with love and joy. And wonder is a big deal. It's a thing, okay? By wonder, and I'm talking about wonder in the context of a classroom, any classroom, I don't necessarily mean curiosity. Curiosity can be okay, but curiosity, as I say every fall and spring, can also get particularly young people in trouble. How many kids today are going to answer the question, I wonder what it feels like to get high? And they're going to do it. Tens of thousands, right? How many 13-year-old boys or girls today are going to pick up a phone or go near a computer and with the tap of a couple buttons access something that I will again proclaim at your hearing to be demonically evil? That's pornography. Please have nothing to do with it. Don't have anything to do with it. And if you are having something to do with it, maybe don't, because it's harmful. It actually causes brain damage. So your sense of wonder, as I say every fall, it's threatened. It's threatened. Now, it was intact when you were little. When you guys were little, when you were little boys and girls, I'll bet you were so cute. You're still cute, but you're getting bigger. It only takes a few years of living to have that wonder destroyed. And it's monsters, the nemesis of wonder. It can be a lot of things. It can be a hard life. It can be bad experiences. In particular, let me shake my fist at it because I think it's horrible. I think it is absolutely terrible what the entertainment industry does to the wonder that you had in you when you were young, right? That sense of awe. Like the first time you went to a zoo and saw a giraffe. When you were 7 or 8 years old, you freaked out because even though you were a genius, you had never seen a giraffe or a rhinoceros or a cheetah or a lion. Think back to those days. Think back to how awestruck, the sense of awe that you could feel in your human heart. The film industry, the music industry, the entertainment industry in general, yeah, there's some okay stuff there, but in general, I'm sorry, you guys, Hollywood and the East Coast, California, they have nothing but contempt for us. It's just a crass money grab. And I've seen it for years, and it got a lot worse in the pandemic when people just started binge watching shows that were unbecoming, and harmful, and a waste of time. And what I'd like to do this week is I'm going to put up an essay for you by, Reese is the name of the woman. Recently I came across a New York Times piece on the idea of awe. And it's worth reading. She just uses a different word than I do. I'm going to get help from her. I'm going to get help from my son, who before he betrayed me and left education, made a beautiful little film about wonder when he was an education student at the College of St. Benedict. And looking forward, I'm really excited that Maya C. Popa is going to be coming because her PhD dissertation is on the presence of wonder in poetry. Wonder and poetry, that's the thing. I can't wait to her because she's into it like I am. Because it's important. I keep saying it's a thing. I'm going to append to this video a little film that might, this is going to go over half an hour, so maybe, take a break, go make a sandwich. But I'd like to put before you a film that my son made before his senior year when he was a Johnny, an English major and an education major. What happened is he won something called the Lindmark Fellowship, and he was the first education major ever to get that. And in the getting of it, he got $7,000. And he wasted an entire summer with all that money sitting in his bank account. He pretty much sat on our front porch here texting his future wife. At the end of the summer, I scholarship shamed him. I said, dude, they gave you $7,000. You haven't written or created anything. And then he pulled it together and he made this little film. He needed my help, though, because he only could find one teacher to talk about it. And that's the elementary school teacher you're about to meet. I also put him in contact with a dear colleague of mine, Adam Marcotte, who's very different than I am, even though we're dear friends. I also, believe it or not, I connected him with the Bishop of St. Cloud, who volunteered to be in the video, and an American poet named Vijay Seshadri who's got a Pulitzer Prize. I broke a rule. You're not supposed to make the poets do extra stuff, but I had to ask Vijay because he was here when he was making the film. Vijay, would you be on this? Would you be on this? Be willing to be interviewed for this little documentary my son is making? Vijay was just like, sure. He's the dark-skinned guy from Bangalore, India. So you got an elementary teacher, a card-carrying atheist, a great Tier 1 American poet, and the Bishop of St. Cloud, all talking about wonder. Check it out, and you just might learn something.